All right, guys, let me just pull this up. This is my leadership philosophy. So what I want to do is draw the best qualities out of each individual by always keeping that bigger picture in mind. I want to draw from each person's strong suit, which will help the team perform to the best of their ability and maintain what I like to call a well-oiled machine. I think it's important as a leader to take a look at your employees, notice what they do well, what they could use work in, and then take that into account when you're assigning them a project. And then, if you put them in the best position to win, the work will be better, the morale will be better. And if you put them on a task that they know, then they will be happy and they won't mind doing the work and it'll get done. There's a quote I found that aligned with my philosophy. A successful person finds the right place for himself, but a successful leader finds the right place for others. Uh, you're not a good leader if your team isn't performing well. You're a reflection of your team. Um, I kind of look at it like I look at it in like a sports analogy. Is say if the team just wins the NBA Finals, the coach still gets a ring too. He's just as important as the team out there, and he's also a reflection of the team out there. So why leadership philosophy is important? When a leader is able to define themselves, it allows them to be more transparent and consistent. It keeps them grounded and centered, and it holds the leader accountable to oneself. I think a big problem with people in power, especially people who've been in power for a long time, is they get used to having the power, and sometimes they get power trips, and they forget to hold themselves accountable sometimes, and they take that out on their team, which isn't acceptable. Having philosophy allows you to set the standard and shoot for it, and when you shoot below it, you know you have to practice what you preach. So some of the key concepts of my philosophy are to lead by example, treat others the way you want to be treated, respect, availability, communication, and work ethic. So leading by example, you have to set the tone. You have to act with the direction of your team in mind. Uh, I always look at it as you are supervising very large children and they are a reflection of yourself. If you were to curse a lot, then your kids, when they grow up, are probably going to be cursing a lot because that's what they know. And the same thing goes for your team and you being the leader of them. They really are a reflection of yourself, and you have to act in the proper manner. So another quote I found that I liked was the success of an organization isn't about the individual. It's about the great people who are working with me. I'm not rich until the whole team's rich mentality, which I really like. Treat others the way you want to be treated, the golden rule. I can't stress enough how important this rule is. Coaches, parents, teachers have stressed this since I can remember. But this concept remains probably just as important, if not more important, as it did previously in my current position. Never underestimate your ability to affect someone. Your influence is great. Whether it be positive or negative, just always keep in mind how you can be affecting others. And lastly, I would say put yourself in the coworker's shoes for a minute before you act, which I know is hard to do because oftentimes we act quickly. But try to think a little bit before you act and see things objectively. Put yourself in their shoes and see both sides before you come up with a decision. Sometimes the act of just being a little objective and seeing how other people are feeling will help the final decision not be as harsh. Availability. Being available lets employees feel more comfortable and ask more questions. the South Airlines president, Colleen Barrett, she stated that if our employees don't feel good about their work environment and they don't feel that they have the tools to do their jobs, what kind of exchange are they going to have with our passengers? I'm so glad I found the statement. I loved it because if I was to be that boss that only comes out of the office to talk about deadlines and assign work and went back and lived my life and ignored everybody else, the work would not be quality, the employee morale would be low. I always want to keep my door open for people to come in and ask questions. I don't want them to be scared to peek their head in, whether it be work related or something else. I can at least direct them in the right direction, have a chat with them. I'm their boss, but I am human. So I just think being available and being present for your team is super important, because if I'm not, that leads to a culmination of other bad things such as low work competency, low employee morale, amongst many other things, which will then translate over to when they're dealing with our customers. And if our customers feel that they're being treated poorly, then we'll lose them, and we will fail as a team. So availability is very important to me. Communication, which goes hand in hand with availability. Lack of communication can lead to many things: low competency of the work at hand, pent-up anger between employees, low morale. I've seen this so much growing up working in restaurants, that people have problems with each other and they don't say anything, or they might say something to the manager and then they find out second-handedly through the manager. And a lot of passive aggressive behavior comes from it, and that's just not the way to go. Skip all of that, say the problem, talk about it, and then you can skip all of that petty garbage in the middle. 57% of employees report not being given clear directions, and 69% of managers are not comfortable communicating with their employees. And I know it's hard to draw a line, especially as a leader, which might reprimand some of them from communicating in the way that they want to. But, not everybody's in your position. You're not made for that position if you can't put yourself out there and know where that line is. You just have, communication is so important. Work ethic, which I think is the most controllable variable of all. It's based on your internal drive. Whether that drive is super present or not, it's my job as a leader to instill or draw that drive out of the employee. But this is my favorite characteristic, because you are very much in control of your work ethic. I would say you're more responsible than the leader, but the leader is still responsible, but you have a lot more control, which is awesome. So I'm going to talk about myself for a little bit here. I believe my experience in the food industry, I've worked in many restaurants. Specifically, I've worked at one for 8. This is my 8th year. Has helped mold some of these characteristics or better refine them, like communication, treating others the way I want to be treated, work ethic. I've always had to deal with, there's not a moment where I'm not dealing with employees or customers. You are surrounded by human interaction, so it helped me better refine those skills. I still need to improve on leading by example. I was not the best trainer. I hated training people. I've gotten better at it over the years, but when I started off, I definitely was not the best, and I still have room to grow, and I still have to keep working at that. As I move forward, I want to refine my leadership characteristics to the best of my ability. You're never done learning or improving, so I'll be trying to refine my characteristics till the day I die. Take notes on the current and past leaders in my life. What were they excelling in? What hinders their leadership ability? And their overall effectiveness as a leader. Because I think nobody's perfect, obviously. So seeing the good outweigh the bad is important. I believe it's important to stay current to the times and the world that is changing around you. Culture is always moving forward. You don't want to fall out of touch or come off as disrespectful to somebody because you're not paying attention to what's going on around you. And lastly, I think it's very important to take into account you will not be the same leader you are 15 years from now. It's not what you were doing wrong. Leaders have to evolve just like the rest of us. Uh, Times change, people change, leadership styles change over the years. So just take into account and embrace the change rather than fight it. And these are my references. And that is it.